Have you ever noticed how some stories simply won't go away? They resurface like a negative rumor at a family barbecue, regardless of how many times people attempt to bury them. Maya, the R&B beauty with an exquisite voice and a discography full of 2000s hits, is at the heart of one of the most intriguing Jay Z and Beyoncé parallel stories out there. And an infant. It's no surprise that her career took a nosedive if what people are saying is even partially accurate. Let's go back to Maya's luminous and developing days in the early 2000s. She was working with the top stars in the industry, charting singles, and receiving Grammy nominations. One of their collaborations was on Best of Me Part 2 with Jay Z. The unquestionable chemistry between Maya and Jay was even more intense than the scorching track. Clocking it didn't require you to be an expert in body language. There were already rumors that something was happening offstage. The electricity, the tension, the looks. Indeed, it provided more than just music. Let's not overlook the timeline now. Jay wasn't exactly known for being a one-woman guy at the time, and he was already involved with Beyoncé at this point. His reputation wasn't exactly spotless. The internet, of course, did what it does best. It was rife with gossip. This is where things go hazy, though. Even though Jay and Maya never provided any confirmation, the rumors persisted, and Beyoncé supposedly continued to take things personally. A few years later, they makes the decision to play her song, Resentment, live. Here's the worst part, though. During a live performance, she changed the words, making it obvious that she was about heartbreak, betrayal, and another lady she couldn't abide. It was easy for fans to make the connection. Beyoncé is devastated. Jay Z is accused of infidelity. The alleged third party is Maya. It resembled a live drama with a complete soundtrack, complete with tears. And it was game over as soon as Beyoncé made that move. The hive of bees leaped. Hatred erupted on Maya's social media accounts. She was being dragged around as if she were the biggest public enemy. Insults, slander, and threats of death. She was observing it from every side. It wasn't even the worst part, though. The music business itself became humorous. Radio silence. From big stations, things withdrawn from the playlist, and all of a sudden Maya's name was no longer appearing as it had before. It was as though someone had flicked a switch and decided she was no longer worthy of the limelight. There were murmurs. Behind the scenes, unpleasant and persistent. Beyoncé was allegedly making calls, pulling strings, and making sure Maya wouldn't get airplay, not signed and not booked. Not public, not official, but enough conversation to make people take notice. It was evident that something had changed. Even though Maya remained largely mute, dismissing the chaos and concentrating on her music. Almost immediately, after becoming a rising sensation, she became a sideline talent. Then came the notorious elevator video, in which Solange engaged Jay Z in full-on combat while Beyoncé remained expressionless. There were a ton of theories on the internet. According to others, Solange was protecting Ba's reputation. Others insisted it had to do with Jay going out once more. Naturally, the name Maya reappeared. It always does. This never-ending Beyoncé-Jay Z narrative turned her name into a ghost story. And that ghost story has real-world repercussions for Maya. Eventually, Maya had to say something. The voices were too loud, the pressure too great, and her name was being hauled around the internet as if she had committed some unspoken transgression. Fans were accusing her of a variety of things, including profession hopping, home trashing, and work. She then entered her own comment section and wrote something that seemed to be a call for peace, as well as a clapback. She disputed all of it, claimed that she didn't need to play around with anyone's husband in order to get to where she was, and she never would. She was the one who paid her own expenses. She was known by her own name. That girl wasn't her. However, the harm had already been done by then. She had to contend with more than just Beyoncé's horde of admirers. The gatekeepers of the industry were the ones who had abruptly stopped caring. Those who once returned calls ceased doing so. Once loyal collaborators vanished into the background. She didn't simply lose the public's affection. She was unable to gain access. Furthermore, silence can ruin your career more quickly than a scandal ever could in a field that depends on relationships. Patterns emerged from the whispers. People began to realize that Maya wasn't the only person whose career declined after being associated with Jay Z. 1 minute blue Cantrell was hot, the next it was gone. White Kathy. Like wildfire, rumors began to circulate that Jay's purported love triangle was linked to her death. The timing of Rihanna's early releases was questionable. Rita Ora reportedly left Roc Nation as things became too intense after signing with them. Maya turned into a warning that if you get too close to Jay Z, you can end up with more than just a broken heart. During the Lemonade era, things reached yet another boiling point. Not all of Beyoncé's personal problems were revealed in the album. No one was safe in this lyrical carnage. He wants me just while I'm not around. She sang, "It would be better to call Becky attractive." One line turned into an obsession. Who is Becky? Was it a human being? Was it an amalgam of every woman Jay Z is accused of having messed with? Once more, Maya's name was mentioned. Rita Ora's did the same. Fans also didn't require receipts in a true untidy internet way. All they needed was vibes. Maya was once again being examined closely. Her every action was analyzed and distorted. Old photos were being unearthed, song lyrics were being examined, and music videos were being viewed as though they were crime scene recordings. She was attacked for simply being near the pandemonium, accused of things she never verified, and tagged in outlandish ideas. Then followed the incident involving Rita Ora's lemon bra. She shared a photo of herself wearing underwear splattered with lemon designs and a necklace that suspiciously appeared to have a J on it. The internet exploded. Memes about Becky with the nice hair became viral, and everyone believed she was intentionally trolling. Rita refuted it, claiming that it was merely an inverted R and that the lemons were not a mysterious jab but rather the result of a lingerie collaboration. It didn't matter by then, though. The heat suddenly returned to Maya after the damage was done. Without saying or doing anything, she was once again in the fire. It was similar to being caught in a hurricane that changed course but never went away. The benefit of the doubt was denied to her. One of the most devoted fan bases in music history threw its full support behind her. As the internet performed her bidding, the queen at its center stayed unaffected, unconcerned, and strangely silent. Maya was more than a mere target. She came to represent the consequences of gaining too much power. Maya made an effort to continue politely. She continued to create music, go on foreign tours, stay in her lane, and let her skill do the talking. However, even that began to have the need to shout into space. Her releases were seldom reported by the media. Her tracks weren't being played on mainstream radio. She was not wanted by major labels. Additionally, the technology that regulates exposure had silently moved on, despite online followers pleading for a return. There were still discussions taking place behind closed doors. People in the industry whispered that she was blacklisted by some people. According to some, Beyoncé had subtly asked to keep Maya out of the spotlight by avoiding partnerships and events. Nothing was ever released to the public. That's how real power moves, of course. No drama, no news releases, just quiet doors that don't open when they should. There were others trapped in that peculiar purgatory besides Maya. It resembled a trend. Women associated with Jay Z. Her career suffers, her reputation is destroyed. She either disappears or tries to prove a negative for the remainder of her life. The public begins to perceive them as problematic. It's because of what others believe happened, not because of anything they did. Furthermore, since no one initially gave you the benefit of the doubt, it might be difficult to shed a label. The fact that Maya was never found guilty of anything may have been the most cruel aspect of her life. She never played into the situation, never clapped back with receipts, and never acknowledged a relationship. Despite being treated as a villain in someone else's love story on the internet, she maintained her composure. She was not shielded by her silence. It allowed people to paint whatever story they chose, if anything. Beyoncé, meanwhile, only continued to rise. Albums achieved platinum status. All tours were sold out. Documentaries were released. She became indestructible, the epitome of excellence. And the women who were caught in her shadow were forced to fend for themselves while the rest of the world celebrated her as a queen. They were resentful if they spoke up. They were complicit if they said nothing. In any case, they were unable to prevail. That's the problem with stories that are based on silence. Once established, they are nearly tough to remove. The more profound query is how many reputations, dreams, and careers have been destroyed in the sake of defending an empire. Maya wasn't merely incidental. She served as a warning, a real reminder that even if you have done nothing wrong in this game, being close to the wrong type of power can cost you everything. Mia didn't fold, though. She changed course, founded her own label, regained control over her work, developed a following outside of the established system, and maintained her integrity even though the spotlight of celebrity had faded. The narrative lingers, but that's more than most people can claim. Whatever happened to Maya is a question that people still ask, as if her disappearance was a mystery, but in reality, the answers were always there. The dominoes began to fall with just one lyric, one rumor, and one sidelong glance from the queen herself. We might never know if Beyoncé actually pulled the strings or if she merely watched as others handled the grunt work. However, we are aware of this. The truth rarely matters when your name becomes entangled with a power couple that dominates perception and culture. It's all about the image. And in this instance, it's possible that someone else's voice was sacrificed in order to preserve the brand. Fell Maya suppressed because she fell in love with the wrong man? Or was she a scapegoat used by the industry to protect its untouchable golden couple? Perhaps both. But there's no denying that Maya didn't deserve what she received. And no matter how much time goes by, her story remains a warning with many unsolved mysteries.